Welcome back to Influential Dental, where we are bringing on some of the most influential voices of dentistry to hear their story about how they came to their level of success and some of the things they've overcome and so on and so forth. But before we jump in, I want to say hi to my co-host, Michael Keeter. How are you?
Great, Julieanne. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I'm still waking up. You and I are running on, I know, limited sleep. We just came back from Voices of Dentistry, which was, oh my gosh, troublemakers. Too much fun at the Pathways. And then, of course, at Justin Moody's house, where he has the wine cellar of all wine cellars, of course, as he's launching his new winery. But yeah, nice to see you. And did you get a little sleep last night?
I did. I'm ready to go. Next is Denver and Dykema, where I look forward to seeing Dr. Rad there and many of our friends. And yeah, it's amazing. So we just keep going.
Yeah, so we have like literally a very, very exciting guest for so many reasons for me personally. And he probably doesn't know any of this because I'm like a stalker, a secret stalker he doesn't know about. But correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so we're bringing on Dr. Rad, who's got, I don't even know how many years, 20 plus years, certainly practicing dentistry, has an incredible story. I'm going to ask him to share a little bit of today if he's willing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not compete at Dentistry's Got Talent last year together?
Yeah, we did. I think it was at Dykema, right? I can't remember if you were. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to tell the audience who won.
Believe me, I'm going to tell you who won. There's a lot of reasons why I want to talk about that. But welcome to Influential Dental. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. It's an honor to have you on, and we're so grateful. So I cannot wait to tell our listeners a little bit about you. But do you want to just jump in with a little background on who you are and why I picked you? Can you guess why?
Yeah, everything's energy. And you guys, Julie and Mike, I mean, you guys' energy is on fire. When I meet you guys and see you guys at any dental conference, we saw each other at CDA in May. And then, of course, Dykema, Julie, you and I competed and met each other then as well. The energy is everything. And where we focus, our energy goes. And today's episode, I'd really like to dive in. You guys mentioned sleep. That is my niche. I love talking about sleep, but also a lot about mental health, personal development, the energy that we bring in on a Monday morning, on a Friday afternoon, or at a conference, and it's magnetic, and we all have our down days. It's energetically tiring sometimes, right? To play that role and bring that positive vibe and energy, but that's all we could do. That's all we have is our energy, and no one should be able to control that. And I'd love to dive in and talk about that specifically with you all today.
That's amazing. And I agree with you. It's kind of like control controllables. And what you can control every day is your energy, is the way you look at life, the way you treat others, the way you uplift others, the way you elevate, dentistry. And that's what we're all about at Influential Dental. It's not only about how you can be influential, who's been influential in your life, but how you can uplift yourself and others around you, because our industry is amazing. The patients, the dentists, the specialists, and all the manufacturers. So yeah, we're very blessed to be in this industry to help people and also make a great living. And it is all about the energy. So I very much look forward to our conversation today, Dr. Rad, and to feel your energy, because I do feel it through the screen here. So again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I love this topic, so I can't wait to hear more and contribute. Even it's like usually I'm always like, Mike, let's just make sure we ask our guests questions because it's not about us, right? And then today I'm like, wait, I want to talk about this. This is such great, and I had no idea where we were gonna go with this today. We did not pre-plan this, right? And so yeah, so share a little bit more about what you're thinking. I love this, and thank you, and I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, I escaped my country when I was 6 years old. Some of you know that story, through the mountains of Iran on horseback. And I was taught to become an adult very quickly. And you can call that a childhood trauma. I think we've all experienced something in our childhood or even adulthood that could hinder us from leading the happiest possible life. But that's playing victim to it, not playing heroic to it. I love that. I go back to thinking about that moment and that night where I escaped and wondering, what did that do for me for today, 40 plus years later, right? What did that make us? How is that making us as a human being today? Are we able to sit in an energy that is more scarcity, fear, anxiety, jealousy, resentment, anger? Or are we able to have the courage and the certainty to rise above that and provide and give and be more compassionate and understanding even towards our enemy? And I think that kind of growth, it starts with awareness and consciousness of your trauma. I was told at 6 years old, "Hey kid, don't fall asleep. You're going to fall off the horse and fall off the mountain and the cliff and die." And sleep has been kind of one of those things for me since I was 6 years old. And tragically, unfortunately, I did fall asleep in 2009. But again, I don't play victim in 2009 to falling asleep at the wheel. I use that as an excuse for me to understand that I had sleep apnea. And that's why what my journey is to be able to become aware of my condition, falling asleep at the wheel, and then ultimately becoming an advocate for sleep and helping thousands of dentists understand how to be able to recognize it in their patients and then treat it within their practice.
A quick question on that. So, there's so many things that I want to unpack today. I just want to do like a 4-hour episode, but I had heard that story. I didn't hear that. If you had shared that at Dykema when you spoke, I don't remember that in your story. I was so caught up on you like getting on the ground and sharing your story. Like, I just remember, I just remember you made me cry. Right. But then I heard on a podcast, I think you were in Glenn Bowes' podcast, and I had heard you talk about the car accident. And, I know actually quite a few dentists who have been in car accidents, and some also for sleep purposes, for sleep reasons. So this is a really important topic. But what I didn't get is, did you get hurt in that accident? I mean, you slammed into a tree asleep, right? So I'm curious, did you get hurt? And like, what kind of profound insights did you get out of that led you into this being a purpose-driven sort of intention, if you will?
Yeah, luckily I walked away. Apparently, I was going somewhere between 30 to 40 miles an hour, and I walked away without a scratch. I mean, absolutely nothing. Airbags deployed. I got out of the car. I remember it was like 11 o'clock at night. I got out of the car, unknowing what was happening, because I just literally woke up because of the accident. And I went to the front of the car and I looked, and it was a good couple feet into the engine. The tree basically was like really a good couple feet into the hood. And I closed my eyes for a second. I touched my face and my arms and my hands and thought, okay, I feel like I'm still here. And then I thought, oh no, I hope my body's not in the driver's seat. I thought maybe I was having an out of body experience. So as I went back around to look inside, luckily I was not inside, meaning nothing horrific happened. And of course, I got very emotional, not understanding why, and kind of now starting to yeah, I'm feeling more tired throughout the day. I was told that I was starting to snore, especially if I had a couple of drinks or not. And that night I hadn't been drinking. And so just feeling tired. About 4% of car accidents happen because people fall asleep at the wheel. And that kind of gave me that awakening to say, okay, like, I don't want this to happen to anyone else. I was a block away from my house in my community. What if I hit someone that was walking walk outside or walking their dog or another car? Then my life would have changed forever. And understanding more about sleep, and then ultimately treating it in my practice over the years, I've seen so many correlations with grinding of teeth and large scalloped tongue and high arched palate, all the things in dentistry, and then high blood pressure and acid reflux and history of heart attack, arrhythmias and cancer history, all these comorbidities that are associated with sleep apnea. So then it's like, when you see something, you can't unsee it. If it's something that could really make an impact, especially when patients are coming in telling me I can't sleep next to my wife or my husband anymore. It's ruining our marriage. We have what's called sleep divorce. We're married, but we sleep in a different room under the same household. And so there's a lot of things that's affecting the health, wealth, and relationships. And going back to the talk at Dykema, that when I said I literally fell asleep at the wheel and I crashed my car, again, there's certain traumas and things that happen in our lives. And I'm a really big advocate of trying to understand what does that trauma and what is that experience teaching you? Before you react, before you get emotionally attached in a negative way, you have to pause for a minute. In Kabbalah, they teach you to have this retrospect of not being reactive, but being an observant. Try to figure out, what is this protecting you from even more? What is the purpose of this? And clearly the purpose of my crash was to be able to help thousands of patients within my practice, but also help thousands of dentists to learn how to do this, because that's what I do through my training.
Yeah, and what I want to say is I have mild to moderate sleep apnea as well. So I know exactly where you're coming from. It's changed my life to be treated for it. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy, you know. So thank you for one, surviving that crash, but also to have that epiphany to go out and talk about it and share your personal journey and story and how that affects not only, you know, you staying up, but like you said, all the other comorbidities, and that dentistry and dentists can treat this condition and people can live healthier and better lives. So again, thank you for sharing that. And again, that's something I've been afflicted with, and I'm dealing with it, and I feel great about it. So I'm sure that's also why you have that energy and zeal, because I feel the energy by making sure that I'm not asleep at the wheel myself. So Julianne, what are your thoughts?
One of the things that you talked about with that story is you talked about this out of body experience potential. And I'm not sure how many people who have actually had one of those experiences. And I definitely have. And it was a very, very profound, impactful time in my life when I experienced that. I'm curious, had you had an out of body experience prior to that where you knew what that was, where you could actually logically say, this is a possibility that I may be having this? I'm just curious. I know that's like a complete sideline from everything, but
As a scientist, biochemistry major, and a dentist, I have a hard time. I had a hard time believing in all this, really. And I think some of the listeners here can resonate with that. You know, it's. And I had a hard time believing even in spirituality and understanding of energies. And now that's all I believe in, and science is secondary. And it was because of these experiences and an understanding, uh, an out of body experience or a more of a energy experience. You know, since then, I've been able to be blessed to speak at many different conferences, and going forward, I have many that I'm going at, and people are asking, how'd you get all these gigs? Like, how are you on these podcasts and stages? And I go, I've been meditating on it. And people laugh. They literally are laughing at me saying that, because it's like, what do you mean you're meditating on it? Well, yeah, I use Dr. Joe Dispenza's visualization techniques, some cerebral spinal fluid breathing before I get started to put myself in an empty state. And then some of them look at me like cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about? And others, like you guys that kind of know a little bit more than the average folk, and some of the listeners here who are really into that spirituality and into mindfulness and meditation, understand the benefit of that. And so, you know, I learned, looking back now, my negative thinking all came true without me even knowing that that was coming, that was happening, because I was being really kind of subconsciously meditating all the negative things with my poor mindset. And so if we can make ourselves sick and make ourselves, you know, in a bad attitude and mindset, we should be able to do the opposite through things like breathing meditation and visualization meditation. And so that's the biggest thing that I've learned through this little journey of ours and the short time that we have on this planet, is to be aware of your thoughts and of your emotions, and see if you can play with them a little bit to really live a more peaceful life.
I love this. So I have to share a funny story. So last night, I think it was last night, I asked my teenage daughter, I said, I said, honey, what is it about me that inspires you? Like, because I had asked a client to ask his own family the same question. I was like, I've never actually done that. And so my daughter said that she was inspired by the fact that I had shared with her that many years ago, when I would be at an event or something where they would put me into a visualization exercise or something, I would visualize myself on stages. And I said, that was probably 10 years ago. And, what do I do all the time? I'm always on stages, right? And so I'd shared that story with her. And she was talking about the inspiration she got from the potential that she could imagine something and it could become real, and that she's seeing it with me, that it is legit. It reminds me, so you guys can see our magazine behind us. I'll just give this a plug really quickly. But so Mike and I launched this magazine, Influence, for dental professionals. It's awesome. It's featuring some incredible people in it. Again, people lifting the industry. But when the other day I shared with Mike, I'm like, I want to show you how this started. And it was like a piece of paper with, like, where we scratched down some ideas and drew a picture of a cover of a magazine and a stick figure on it, you know? And we're like, oh my gosh, look, it's real. And then for kicks, we put ourselves on the cover, but the next one is going to feature Jim Glidewell and Stephanie Goddard on the cover. So, it's like to show how you can create and manifest out of nothing if you can see it. If it's possible, you'll see it and then it becomes real, right?
Yeah.
It manifests.
No, I agree. And Dr. Rad, we're definitely going to have you contribute on our next magazine. And also, here's a plug for us to have you join us in this journey as well, because again, with your
Yeah, we got to
energy,
do a spread on you for
yeah,
sure.
in your style and your being is exactly why we're doing what we're doing, whether it's our podcast, whether it's our magazine, whether it's our company. But it is truly about, influence, being influential, but not just that on itself, because you could be influential for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. And we're talking about obviously the right reasons to bring everyone up. But on the act of visualization, I believe what you're saying, and Julieanne, I know you do as well. And coming from a sports background and playing collegiate football and so on, throughout when I was young, and it was all about visualization, right? It was about the next play or what you're going to do, what the score of the game is going to be. And I do think whether it's a big project or a small project, seeing you successful, seeing you get that deal, or seeing you being on that stage, or seeing you creating that or having that magazine, or being around those people around you that need to be around you is so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. And I agree with that on a daily basis as well. And so many dentists and dental professionals, because it is a very hard profession. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that as well, suicide rates and burnout and physical ailments that, think well, and do well. So thank you for sharing it and having that mindset, because that's what we're all about here as well.
Yeah, and the key to that visualization, Mike, that you're mentioning is not just to visualize it; it's actually to have the emotions that come from that visualization, and that is the work of Dr. Dispenza. That look, it's not easy. I don't think it's easy for you to close your eyes for 15 to 20 minutes and try to put yourself in a very empty space where you're not thinking about anything, like your back's itching. I got an email. I got to talk to Julie. I got to say hi to Mike. I got to go to Dicomam. Did I confirm and then all of a sudden go back to your thought. All these pop-up windows, as I call it, that come up during your visualization, but you just got to come back to it. And every time you go away, you come back to it. And then once you're visualizing it, let's say it is speaking on stage and winning Dentistry's Got Talent at Dicoma. And what does that make you feel, right? It makes you feel joyful. It makes you feel gratitude. It makes you feel confident. It makes you feel liberated or free. When you do speak on the stage, or when you do coach and consult, or when you do treat patients, there are some self-rewarding things, some emotions that come from it. And when you feel those emotions along with your visualization, that's the key. That's the pivot that you get to what you're looking for and what you're wanting, where the universe will throw at you little synchronicities, little reminders, your 1111, your email that comes in randomly that was something about what you were visualizing, the offer to speak, a new person who sends their resume to your office and is looking for a job, and you're like, man, I wanted to make a change at the office, but I didn't intentfully yet, but I did through my visualization. All these things are called synchronicities, and the reminders that you're on the right path. And just like we go to the gym and we got to go 4 or 5 days a week to see some sort of growth, you got to do this kind of thing 4 or 5 days a week. You can't just do it once or twice a week and expect some sort of a result that's shock and awe that can change your life. It has to be consistent. And if you're not going to be a believer on it, figure out why. What is your limiting belief that you're not a believer in some of the things that you deserve? Why don't you deserve that? Where do you live in scarcity in your mindset that you're not good enough? Who taught you that? Or how is that programmed into your mind? Because you better believe a 5 or 6 year old believes that they can be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and they're barely shooting a basketball that's at an 8-foot rim. So where does that programming that self-negative talk come from, and why did it get there, and who can you forgive without an apology to be
That's
able to
the
move
key,
on? That's
right?
the key. That's the key.
So it's so interesting that you're sharing this because Mike and I have done all this work. And by the way, we came together over a need to forgive some people who upset us terribly in this industry. It's why we came together and said, hey, you know what? What if we did the opposite? What if we just built people up? And that's how we created Influential Dental. We literally went from this negative situation. We had to talk each other off a cliff a couple times, don't get me wrong, because we were so upset. But we just kept reminding each other and holding each other accountable for forgiveness. And then we went through even deeper work to just forgive and just be like, hey, I'm totally okay with this, and to get to that state took a conscious choice, a conscious effort. And I think the most natural place that humans exist is in the negative, right? And it's like working out. We have to keep bringing our mindset back to this place. But I love what you're talking about the future emotion that you're producing when you visualize, because I always say that, yes, what you're hanging on to with this visualization is this idea of an emotion you think it's going to produce. But it's not just that visualization who will give it to you. It's everything around you. You can find all the things and then you're already there. You've arrived because you're living it. And not only that, you will also catapult yourself into manifesting it as well. So love this topic. So yeah, go ahead, Mike.
And real quick before you move on, and not only for yourself and your own being, but those around you. That's the gift of coaching and training and being that type of person that would provide that. So we do some elite team training and other things, and I'm sure that really permeates through your team in your office and those at your company and those around you and those friends of yours and your patients even, right? Because I'm sure you share your beliefs with them on not only on what you need to do clinically to feel better, but what you do with your mind. I think that's the most powerful thing in dentistry is everyone that's listening or watching this does amazing work in dentistry and really does save people's lives. But I do think those dentists or those executives that kind of think and take it to the next level, that really truly level up, provide the best, the greatest gift of all.
I
And
have a quick question on this really quickly. So, I agree with everything you're saying, Mike. But one of the things that, you and I've talked about a lot this week, and also with our good friend, Kim Tuvey from Ripe Global, we were talking about this desperate need to be around people we could be fully authentic with. And Dr. Rad, you're 1000% this person, right? And it's like we notice that we all gravitate to this certain group of people when we're at these conferences. And the reason is because we can say anything unfiltered and be completely connected, legitimately curious about one another. What is your secret? How can you do that so well?
The authenticity is really, really important, and being genuine. And most importantly, it's to learn more about each other. What do when you talk to people, it's a lot about me, talk me. It's how are you doing? How can I help you? What are you working on that I can support you on? I think I asked you that, Julie, and you're like, can you be on my podcast? I'm like, absolutely. I didn't even know what it's about, but something you're excited about, right? And really, I went to Niagara Falls with my 17-year-old son a couple of weeks ago, just me and him, and the water and the waterfalls. I love waterfalls. I don't know if the body of water that I love the most is the waterfall. It's the river, the lake, the ocean, and the waterfall. Apparently, depending on which one you like, it says something about your personality. And I love waterfalls, and that was really one of the biggest ones, right? My son goes, hey, Dad, do you want to sit down, listen to the waterfall on the grassy area out here and meditate? My 17-year-old. And I was just like, how, what? He's like, Dad, I hear you. I hear you on the podcast. I hear you talking to your friends on the phone when you're at the house. And it makes sense to me. And I've been doing it on my own and learning more about it. And it's so weird how it's making me more happy. So it's all about resonating what you feel and what you know to the people around you and sharing information, giving value about what you know that can synergistically make you grow. If you're opening a business with someone or you have staff, if you all are on the same page of that visualization, of that mindset that we can do anything, and we're going to tie emotions to it, and we talk about it during our huddle meetings and during our business meetings, you will grow exponentially as opposed to just doing it by yourself. So I think the reason why we all resonate together, or people who are, let's call it, a little bit more thirsty for spiritual healing, is because we know synergistically the energy is multiplied when we're around. And it's all about our energy. As I said in the beginning, it's fun energy. We learn from each other, and ultimately we can grow together. You guys know about the 5 languages of love, right? That's been out there since I think 1993. Now there's 7. I've updated the love languages to 2 more.
I love this. What are they?
Growth is definitely a love language. You cannot be with a partner if you're in a growth state spiritually, or some sort of growth state, and your partner's like, what is that tree hugging stuff that you're doing? It's done. There's absolutely no way. And of course, communication is another love language. You can touch, you can buy gifts, you can words of affirmation, you can, quality time all day, all night, which all sound great. But without the proper communication and growing together, they're going to be left behind. You're on another journey. The divorce is happening. A new relationship may come about, and you're going to attract with people that are like-minded, like we all are.
I agree with about sharing, because you don't know what you don't know. And that one conversation you can have with that person could be pivotal. Just like when you were in that accident, that one moment, but that one conversation, that one outreach, that one, creating something. And it's, like the book, The Tipping Point, which you may or may not have read, that one thing that can transpire humankind. It really can, or transform your own life, your own existence. But those around you, and that's why I love to coach and teach and be around others, is not only to hear, like our conversation today, but in just the most random conversations or experiences. And I don't think things are random. I do think things happen for a reason. Come into your life, things happen good or bad, but it's how, like you said, your mindset and what you do. So I do love that you said that about sharing and communication. Because if you don't do that, you may not receive back, and who knows where that will lead. So put yourself out there, communicate, take a risk, take a chance, and live, I guess.
Mike, Elijah Desmond, one of my good friends, who you guys may know, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you keep your mouth closed, you're not going to get what you want in life. You can't just even your partner in life, you can't be like, oh, they should know what I'm thinking already. Why are they not X, Y, and Z? Like, it doesn't work that way. Not everyone can read your freaking mind. You need to be able to be expressive. And why do we not sometimes be expressive? Because we have a fear of rejection. We have a fear of failure. And so if you let go of that limiting belief and understand that the only way to growth, the only way to achieving is experiencing failures and rejections, and those, let's call it one-off, if not maybe multiple times, you do get a positive response by opening your mouth, asking to speak on stage, telling the patient they need X, Y, and Z, and just back it up, doing your job, and then seeing what the world brings you. Otherwise, just keeping it quiet because you're afraid of something, that is a recipe for disaster. You'll start spinning down, and your energy will show. And no one, that's not magnetic. That's not something people want to be around or work with.
I agree 1,000%. We do know Elijah. And by the way, Elijah gets like so much hate. He's one of those guys that, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand who that person is. And he's such a good guy. And, he's just been bold. And I think if you don't find inspiration in who that man has become and the things that he's overcome and the things he cares about, then you're missing something, because we all want to judge everybody who's doing better or seemingly, right? But we don't know. We've not walked in their shoes, and it's not our place to do that, right? So I love that you gave him a shout out, because he in particular, it's amazing to me what he has done, right? What do you say to somebody, though? This is something that comes up, I'm sure it does for you when you're mentoring or coaching somebody. What do you say to somebody when they say to you, look, I'm not only just burnt out, but I genuinely don't know my why. I have no clue what my purpose is anymore.
Burnout can happen in any industry. And part of the reason why it's happening more in dentistry is because of the experiences that we have with patients and with staff that are very negative experiences that we hold on to. I see 30 patients a day sometimes, and 28 of them are high fives. I love you. You're the best dentist on planet Earth. Let's hug. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go out. Blah, 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 blah. And 2 of them are, you caused me pain. This isn't hurting before. Why is it so expensive? Your staff is not you only hold on to those 2. And at the end of the day, through therapy, through going to retreats, Tony Robbins, Kabbalah, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Peter Crone, the mind architect, Danny Morell, Awaken. I mean, I can name, the list goes on and on. if you're not doing the personal work to understand why you get triggered and why you get emotionally kind of in this rut with those 2 out of the 30 patients or your staff that brings up some, thing that they should basically are showing the lack of appreciation that you're putting food on their table and whatever else is happening in your private life, your emotional reaction is the problem. That's why you're burning out. You're not understanding how burnout, the opposite is gratitude. And if you're not living in that gratitude by constantly journaling, constantly thanking, like I said random thank yous to my friends when really, really the shit has hit the fan for me that Monday. 2 weeks notice from a staff member. My kid doesn't feel well. Insurance costs for my cars have gone up. All this stuff. Bro, thank you so much for being in my life. Mom, thanks so much for bringing food for me last week. Like I'm still 10 years old. Like all these things are still, it's that mindset. So if someone is sitting in that rut where out of the 7 days a week, 5 days feels like you're carrying a bag of rocks, right? And it's heavy and you're going uphill in the snow, barefoot, all that feeling that you're getting, you haven't figured out yet what it is to be grateful. And really, at the end of the day, that is the key to anxiety. That is the key to fear. And then you have to go and figure out, why are you so offended by so many of these things happening to you? Like, what happened during your childhood? Did you not get enough love? I mean, it's a cliche, but some people don't hear I love you from their parents ever, or very few times in their life. And then you have to be worthy of that love. And feel that from others and feel the appreciation, but then you don't really listen to it because you yourself don't believe it because of what you've gone through. So there's a lot of personal work that has to be done for anyone who feels burnt out. That means you need to do more work on yourself. And the modalities are listening to podcasts, going to retreats, reading books. And then all of a sudden the consciousness happens. You start becoming aware of what is triggering you. You don't put your energy in that. Tony Robbins taught me a very, very important tool. If you stay in a negative emotion for more than 90 seconds, you could stay in there for weeks, months, and even years. So how do you change yourself when you get that negative emotion of fear, anger, resentment, jealousy? Whatever that emotion is you quickly change it to some sort of compassion, understanding, and gratitude towards where you're at in life compared to where millions of other people would love to be in that position. So that's the trick, is understanding yourself, working on yourself and going deeper, and then having the techniques, including meditation. Have you guys done breathing meditation before? 5 minutes, the Buddha meditation. Just focus on your breath going in and out. I guarantee you during those 5 minutes, when you put a timer on, you will think of, I call it the pop-up boxes on a computer. You're sitting there, you're typing your life, you're breathing, pop up menu, pop. You got to X all that out, then go back to focusing. You'll have a thought every 1 to 10 seconds that will disrupt that breathing meditation. If you do it 100 times in the next 3 months, that breathing meditation, you will get to a point where you may stop thinking about anything besides your breath for 20 seconds. And that's a win. Because what happens in real life when some patient comes in and punches you, somebody says something emotionally, that you're back to breathing much quicker because you've trained your body and your mind to close that pop-up window and focus back on your piece.
It's funny because I think about Mike and I have been doing this work literally in the, just in the form of like, how fast can we get over our upset? And it's interesting. So you can put it in the meditation world, you can bring it into practice in your day-to-day life. And sometimes it helps so much to have somebody who you trust so much, that is like your accountability partner, if you will, to bring you back, right? Just getting over upset, like how fast can you get past it? And it is a conscious choice. Like go back to what's the opposite, what are we thinking about, and so I love it applied to meditation. I love it applied to the day-to-day. Go ahead, Mike. You were
Yeah,
going
and I was
something.
going to say, I think it's based out of either not knowing or fear, and to be vulnerable and to let go and to say you don't have to do it all by yourself, right? I think, and trust me, I've been there, done that. I'm a self-beat up guy, all internalize things, where I can take passion for good. I can also take passion for negative, because again, it's all about that mindset. But again, to find your people, to find that person, to find that confidant, like you said, to read, to explore on your own, and to have those conversations. And I do think it starts with communication, like you were saying earlier, to also own it, but to be okay. Again, we're all human, right? But I do think if we don't surround ourselves with those type of people, those type of books, those types of podcasts, those types of things, it'll be kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where we'll just spiral inwards. But it's like, okay, I can fail once in a while. Like you said, I don't have to always be on all the time. I don't always have to succeed. But you know what? And it's okay. Like you said, if you haven't had that childhood trauma, it's okay. That was the past. But what can you do now, today, this moment, and better yourself and better those around you? So, there is hope, and you provide that, Julieanne, and many others do. And it's okay. It's okay to look at yourself and say, I'm fine. I will be better. I will get better, and to do better at the end of the
Could even go so far as to say, like, I always kid around that rather than push your negativity away or push the side of you that you're afraid of away, like embrace it, love on it a little bit. And then it makes it so much easier to understand that all parts of us are there for a reason. But the doing the reps, like what you're talking about, Dr. Rad, is really the key, right? If you want to begin, because eventually it becomes easy. Eventually, not only is it easy, it becomes addictive. And if it's a positive addiction, then go for it, right? Lean in. So, you are an entrepreneur besides being a dentist, right? And you formed a company that's like a health company. Is it strictly sleep or what else? I haven't researched your company yet, believe it or not. And I'm sorry for that. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what is your company offering, because you have products and all kinds of things.
Yeah, so Rad Health, was invented during COVID when people were sleeping poorly and their mouthpieces were working because they come in every 6 months, or I'm, giving them a mouthpiece a week or two later. They're like, oh my God, this is great. I'm not snoring. My wife loves you, all that fun stuff. And then, but my mind doesn't shut off because I'm thinking about so many things and stressed about COVID, my job, my mom, sickness, this, that. I'm taking Tylenol PM, Advil PM, Xanax, marijuana, Ambien, all these things. So I kind of dove in, put my biochemistry hat on, and created RADZs, which was my first sleep supplement. It has N-acetylcysteine, an ingredient in there that helps actually with sleep apnea. It lowers sleep apnea by about 30% clinically. And so it calms the mind, helps with sleep apnea. That was my first product. My favorite product, I have 11 of them now, is Rad Fresh. I'm wearing the shirt for it. Rad Fresh is a spray bottle that helps clean sports cards. And the NFL season is coming. Can't wait. My 49ers better do good this year. I am also a fan of every other team as well. And I got 8 teams in the NFL using Rad Fresh on the sideline, cleaning their dirty sports cards. And there's college, high school, all these players that need to keep those things clean because they harbor a lot of bacteria and fungus. So Rad Fresh for Invisalign, for retainers, dentures, night guards, sleep appliances, of course, and then the sports guards out there. So those are my 2 kind of favorite products. And of course, clenching and grinding. People clench and grind like crazy today than ever before. So I developed a jaw product called Rad Jaw that has magnesium, chondroitin sulfate, glucosamine, things that help with the muscles tension and the popping and clicking of the jaw. So it's been kind of fun. I dove into it. I sold baseball cards when I was a kid at 12 years old. I would go to the Beckett Monthly. I would look up the
Oh,
baseball
yeah.
cards and be like, oh man, this went up. Ken Griffey Jr., Jose Canseco. Let's try to, back in the day, we didn't have eBay, right? We didn't
Right.
have Amazon. And my products are all on Amazon now. And and on eBay. And it's been fun kind of going back to my childhood and seeing if I get more excited selling a Rad Fresh bottle that makes me like $10 than doing like, an implant that makes me $3,000+. It's so weird.
Yeah,
That's
well, it comes from the heart. It's about your entrepreneurial spirit, and obviously, our podcast is called Influential Dental. And real quick, I do want to thank American Dental Institute for supporting our podcast, and that we can be here and share these wonderful stories. But regarding influence and being influential, and I'm sure your journey is been amazing. From escaping a country to see a new life for you and your family, and entrepreneurially, and being a dentist, and what you're doing now. But one about being influential. Who's been influential in your life? One, I would love to hear some of that, and then also, you know, because you're influential in what you do, whether you want to or not. Whether it's your attitude, whether it's your drive, whether it's your own success, but what do you think about being influential, and what does that word mean to you? So I know I kind of said a couple things in there.
The person who's been the most influential initially has to be my father. For him to be able to leave his country with my 9-month-old brother, me at 6 years old, leave all his riches to escape religious persecution on horseback into the mountains of Turkey, then getting us out of that country, which is another story in itself. The strength in his character, unbelievable. If he can do that, I always think to myself, I have the opportunity to be able to do anything and everything. Definitely my father would be number one. And I hope that we all understand our parents are not perfect. We all know that. I'm not a perfect parent. You guys are not perfect parents. But there's a legacy that they will leave us, and there's a legacy that we want to leave our children. Is ultimately, a friend of mine said that there's two things I really hope for. I want to make sure my parents pass away without suffering, and I want to make sure my kids bury me. I was like, whoa, that is deep, and thinking that I want to be influential for my children. So to be that, the people that around me that I call my group or my supporters or my close friends, the people who I've learned certain traits from, such as that they don't even know it, but such as Tony Robbins and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Danny Morell and Peter Crone, all the names that I've listed, Kabbalah. Those have been influential because I personally dove in to make sure I'm the best version of myself, so that my children can one day say that maybe I was the most influential person for them.
That, it's funny. I don't talk about my own father too often. He just kind of lives in me. But my dad passed away when I was like 9. And he was one of these people who was handing me Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People, books written in the 50s when I was 8 years old, saying, you got to read this, and truly is one of the most influential people in my life as well. And so I love when people can say their father. On the flip side of it, so often people don't say that, right? In fact, their horror stories are horror stories. But at the same time, if people can forgive the people who have not been influential and thereby still influence them on some level, right? It's funny because influence can come from a lot of different things. But I love you sharing that. And your story, when you shared it on stage, was so touching and moving because you were so willing to kind of go there. You went there beyond what I see most speakers go there with, in terms of being so vulnerable that you were able to yourself do things that could have been a risk, could have been embarrassing, could have failed even on stage terribly. And yet it didn't. It resonated with everyone just because you were willing to actually take the risk. So can you share anything about the risk behind showing up for people, trying to create new products that could also epically fail, risking your money, risking your own reputation? Where does that come from? How are you able to do that?
It's completely removing the fear of the outcome. That's it. The fear of the outcome. I visualize that if I get on one knee at Dykema and I show how I spoke to my own 6-year-old self during breath work at the end of my talk, that TED talk that we did together, that would emotionally trigger people to understand that we can work through anything that we've gone through. If a 6-year-old can do it, so we should be able to do it as an adult. And so I just visualize it. I visualize the product. I knew Rad Fresh would be in the NFL one day because I know that they are not keeping it clean besides squirting some water on there. And yeah, that's impactful in the health of humans that are entertaining us playing football, or maybe a kid in high school that's playing football or lacrosse, or an MMA fighter. Like, have I failed? Absolutely. I mean, I've failed in relationships. I've failed in myself. I've failed in business. I don't know of anyone who hasn't failed. You see the stories. How many times was Amazon told no? 23 times. How many times was Starbucks coffee? We can make it at home. How many times were they told no? The key is to continue and push through. And if you believe in something and you're using your visualizations and attaching a positive emotion that can come out from that visualization, that the audience that you speak to, the products that you sell, and the people who buy it, the patients that listen to you, I would say majority, 51% of the time or more, you win. That's a win. The rest of the time you get rejected. It's part of the experience.
Yeah. It's like, why not? Right? Why not me? Why not us? Why not? And like you said, the worst thing that can happen is you get a no, but then you go for the yes, or you fail, but then you try again. And that's like sports. And it's interesting, you bring a football, and I won't make it to sports talk, Julieanne, but it's about that next play, right? It's about that first down. It's about scoring or having one more point at the end of the game. And there's 4 quarters for a reason, right? There's plays, there's offense, defense. And that's why I love football and play collegiately and love the chess of it and the receivers and how the line works and everything else. But the fact is, you can't do it alone. And whether it was like you'd mentioned, Starbucks or anyone else, or sure there was an idea, but you take a lot more than just yourself to execute on that idea. But it's just about that grind, and it's about that overcoming, and it's about putting yourself in the right framework. So one, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about those products as well. But it starts with the idea, and it starts from the heart, regardless of what the product is or what it is, because people can come and go and make things, but if you don't have a story, you don't have that will, you don't have that, it's not going to ultimately succeed. So thank you for that.
There's this is such an interesting topic. Of course, everything that we talk about, we resonate on. There's going to be some people who maybe don't resonate. They're like, what are you guys talking about? And that's okay too. Like, I think I always say, put bad ideas and good ideas on the table. Sometimes the best ideas come from bad ideas as well. You don't have to believe everything that somebody offers you. You don't even have to accept it, but maybe there's something else that gets sparked out of that. I want to shift to another topic, which is, we're talking about visualization, which is sort of this future thing to bring it back into the now, and some different things. And, one of my beliefs is that we want to visualize for this future thing that we desire. And simultaneously, we have to let go of the past. I think you've said this, like how, whatever it is that is traumatic or whatever that is. And I know there's ways to do that. I've tried so many modalities of trauma therapy because I coach people, right? And so I've done it so I know what works and what doesn't work for me, but it's different for everybody. But coming into this concept of the now, we've all read or many of us have read The Power of Now, and some of us live in a place where we're trying to bring things back to the now. And the more I personally live in the experience of what's in front of me, the more peace I have, right? So what is your experience around this concept of being in the moment?
Yeah, so being in the moment is a very, very great ideology. Makes total sense, right? Be present, be genuine, be authentic in the moment. Don't worry about what happened in the past. You can't change it. It's a memory now. Unfortunately, the memories give us evidence of certain behaviors that we're afraid of in the future, especially we get older, we have even more memories of that evidence, right? Whether it's being untrustworthy or not trusting something that hurt us in the past. So again, it goes back to me being a scientist, not believing that anything spiritual besides, cells, 1+1 kind of mentality. But to be in the present means you got to focus on what you want to focus on now. And that breathing meditation of that 5 minutes of inhalation, exhalation sounds so neurotic for some of us that are listening to this. Sounds so off the wall. Like, okay, bro, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Okay, then you think about something of the past or the future. That's what interrupts your focus. But when you keep doing that and you get back to center and your breath, then in real life, again, when people bump into you, they change your energy in a negative way you come back to that piece of being present. It's that practice that allows you to stay in the present more than jumping towards your memories that hurt you or were positive, or thinking too much about the unknown, which is the future. So, that is the key. I don't think I've tried to be in the present. I've tried to, be really, really here without meditation and that kind of understanding the power of the breathing meditation. And it just doesn't work. I've gone 2 weeks, maybe more, without doing the breath meditation. And I notice my focus is off. It will literally be ruined. I'll do it for a day or two, 5 minutes each day. All of a sudden, I'm more in the present. And when you're in the present, things come to you. You don't even have to go after it. The energy just comes to you. Those synchronicities come to you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. And one of the things that Mike and I really became kind of conscious of was not just being about ourselves, but really looking at other people and looking at the greater impact on others, and really by just taking our mindset out of me into the focus of other people, it shifts even how you experience somebody who's very negative, because what you start to see is that, oh, they're triggered or behaving a certain way because of their own childhood traumas. And it has literally nothing whatsoever to do with me. Right. And so I think that's such a powerful thing when we can start to look out at the community as a whole and then the world as a whole and start to see that, hey, we're here not just for ourselves, right? But for our children, for these other people. And everybody's affecting everybody. And man, wouldn't it be great if we could all have a positive effect on one another, but primarily to not be triggered, right? And it allows you to experience people even in the negative in a way that sometimes is just fun and hysterical, frankly. Like a driver cuts me off and I'm just like, I right away, I assume they've got to get to the hospital, like that's not hysterical, but they can't just cut me off just to be a jerk. Like who does that, right? They've got so much other stuff going on. So nothing bothers me about other humans so much anymore. And so that's a powerful place to exist. And I'm not saying we don't all get triggered, because we do. We have our identity that we hold on to these things and we don't realize it's subconscious, right? But what do you do when you're not meditating and you're out and you're triggered by somebody who's really negative, right? And you know it. Is there a specific thing you say to yourself to remind yourself? Because we forget, like what do you do to remind yourself, hey, that's not me. That's their stuff. I'm going to hold space,
The biggest thing is a breath, pause right in the moment. Someone's telling you, I think that was really rude of you, X, Y, and Z, or I don't like the fact that and then you pause and you don't react. You first see, am I being triggered? Yeah. Why? And those are like literally quick thoughts that I'm having. Why am I being triggered? Why is this person affecting my mood in a negative way? Oh, it's because I still have confidence issues. I still have self-esteem issues that I haven't worked on. So their put down is making me feel less adequate. They are making me in this very, very bad mindset. That's the power that I'm going to give them. I don't think so. Now, why are they saying that? What have they experienced that they need to make me feel less about myself to make themselves egotistically more in the right? Why are they in this mindset, or why are they behaving this way? What have they gone through that they're just reflecting it onto me, and it really doesn't have anything to do with me perhaps? And that takes a few seconds, I would say. It definitely it's a process.
The conscious choice, though, you're knowing that you're thinking. So you mentioned Tony Robbins, and I love Tony Robbins for a lot of reasons. And I actually trained with Tony Robbins and his coach to become a coach. So believe it or not, I have so much admiration for the way that he creates transformational change in a moment, in an instant, with people by addressing what's really, really going on, and then putting it in a way where he interrupts people's patterns, right? Like, and he's a master at interrupting a pattern because their synapses are firing the same as they've been firing since they were small children, like you mentioned, right? And so their immediate reaction to something is the same every single time. And, he's got a famous story about, helping somebody quit smoking, and he made the guy come in with packs of cigarettes. I know you're nodding. For those people who can't see the video, Dr. Rad knows the story and he's nodding. Mike, I don't know if you know this story. And he makes the guy like just start smoking packs of cigarettes. And then doesn't he throw like a glass of water in their face? Yeah, he throws a glass of water in his face and he's like, now pick it up and smoke again. You came to me to quit smoking. I can do this. And the guy was like, and he's like, smoke it. And he keeps making him smoke it. And then he keeps throwing water in the guy's face because it interrupted the pattern over and over to really create a new opportunity, a new opening for him to now start to do something different. Right. And I always loved that story because it made so much sense to me. I used some of these techniques at one point, just testing them, like having a rubber band around your wrist where you start to do something is not helping you to step into your potential, and you snap it so hard, that it hurts, right? But it interrupts, and then you replace it. And I love that. Do you know of any other techniques that people can use, and how does this apply to dentistry?
Yeah, when a patient comes in and says something negative, we go down that rabbit hole a little bit. And so when that happens, again, the gratitude world is a very, very big world. And it's not just trying to reflect, pause, don't react. What is this protecting me from? What are they going through in their day and life that they have to egotistically react this way towards me? What am I still needing to work on? We all got that. That right then and there just de-escalated the negative emotion that you're feeling by at least 50%. Doesn't make it go away completely. But then it's like, okay, can I change this mind or this mentality by showing some sort of gratitude? And it's a hey, patient, I do really appreciate what you're telling me. I'll definitely take it into account. I'm grateful for this conversation, and I'd like to take some time to be able to know how to answer this for you. And that's totally different than responding with ego. So it's not just the pause, reflect, observe. It's also the gratitude in what's happening, either mentally or even verbalizing it with your partner, with a patient. Don't matter. You're going to de-escalate the situation. You almost make them feel stupid.
Well, and also it's hard to be upset or mad at someone when you're offering them compliments and you truly do care about the situation, right? Some people just want to pick fights, and you can take that bait or not take that bait. But like you said, it's kind of hard to stay mad with someone if you generally they can hear your empathy in your voice. That no, I hear you. I want to make the situation better, whatever it is, or try to understand how to. But no, I agree with that statement.
And,
It's
and you
so
know,
true.
Mike, being dudes, you and I, that sounds like a complete crock of shit to some of the men out there. That is strength. That's what a king behaves like. That's what emotional maturity is. It's provider, protector, and emotional maturity. It's not, I'm going to fight you even more. I'm going to punch you and you're going to drop to the ground. That is complete childish mentality. And that's very hard. I was programmed for 40 plus years of my life to believe that strength and retaliation and winning the argument by showing strength and anger and testosterone rage was the way to go. I mean, good luck. You can't do that
Yeah.
with a partner. You can't do that with your child. You can't do that with a patient. And so that's the key. It sounds fluff, but it actually is you're winning so hard mentally and emotionally. You've won. And that's all you want to do is win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so some of the greatest martial artists in the world do these practices where it brings to the forefront the strength that comes from the heart versus the power you have in a fist, for example, or anything else. And we can't get into it and deep dive on it today, but I've personally experienced that, and the power is all in love. It's always, always, always in opening your heart. I'm not saying don't train to protect yourself. I'm just saying, hopefully you'll never have to use that. I know we're coming to the end. You talked a lot about gratitude today, and my husband's really great. We've mentioned also this thing where if you grow together, it can be really fabulous, but we all have to hold space for our partners to kind of grow at their own pace because people are not always on the same page. And we're big fans of, certainly Mike and I are doing a lot of work together that, is transformative. That's so we can help other people to, test these modalities themselves and use what works. But one of the things my husband brought to my attention the other day was something he had heard where somebody was just saying thank you a lot. That was it. It was just a simple practice of just saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he shared this story, and I can't remember the story, and so I'm going to butcher it, but maybe you know it, where the guy basically had to come. He came and he asked somebody who had a lot of money for a loan or something like that, and the guy said, "Not until you go spend 1 month saying thank you, however many 100, 300,000 times or whatever." Do you know this story?
Yeah,
I'm
I've
just
heard of it.
curious. Okay. So yeah, and you can definitely chime in on this. But anyway, and then the guy goes back a month later and he's like, "I'm really impressed that you did that. I'll give you the loan." The guy said, "Yeah, the funny thing is I don't need it anymore." Yeah, exactly. So I started implementing this literally in the last month, where when I start to go to a negative mindset, maybe I'm in running and I don't have time to do deep breathing, or obviously there's always time to breathe, right? We sort of use a lot of excuses, but I started just saying thank you. And it was so profound how fast it had an impact just by going, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I was like, "Oh, can I compete? Could I do it 300,000 times in a month? How many times do you have to say it?" But I've been playing with it a little bit. What are your thoughts on something as simple as that, an activity of gratitude?
Yeah, that is the activity of gratitude, or one of them that I try to use as much as possible, even when instruments are being exchanged in a dental practice, is the please and thank you. I read once that in an email, when you're requesting something, Please look at this document. Thank you. Just a simple please and thank you, repeating it over and over again with people that irritate the crap out of you, or or people that you're, in a very happy, great state. And I do it with the waiter that is the bus boy, the waiter, even when something's cold, and I send it back occasionally. It's please, can you make this a little warmer? I really appreciate it. Thank you. And it's that kind of vibe that will just bring more please and thank yous to you. I mean, it's it's a mirror. Whatever you send out into the universe will happen back to you. So why not be that? Why not consistently? If there's any excuse that you guys have in your mind right now that please and thank you, wait till you have the worst, shittiest day of your life. Oh, I've had those days. You all have had those days. And it's very challenging to say please and thank you when you got into a bad car accident or you got a bad diagnosis of your parents and some sort of illness. That's not going to happen. We understand the reality of it, but there's about a thousand other things in the week that can happen that you usually just brush off. Those are the times where the please and thank yous and the gratitude comes in. Even in the darkest times, there's a gratitude of other people that are pushing through, being your friend, being someone there that loves you, that you could still thank during your darkest hour.
Yeah, no, your parents and the love of your parents and fathers, and that did resonate with me, Dr. Rad, and grandparents, and so I carry that with me as well. So I agree. Be the example, but set the example for generations, as we do for our kids. And I know you do, Julieanne, for years, and Julieanne has an amazing story as a adoptive mother of two young children as well. But just to circle back on that, I know we're going over, and this is, again, amazing. We'll definitely have you back on, Dr. Rad, because I have some questions about your Menergy group, because you brought up the bro thing. So I thought that was cool. Sports, we could talk football and cards. So I'm sure we'll have some conversations at DICOM as well. But I do agree about the simple things, the please and thank you, and being that example and having that positive influence. There is scientific proof for it, and I don't know if it's real or not, but it's much. You take less muscles, it's easier to smile versus frown. And I do think and also for your overall health. I think if you're in that positive mindset, I know there's plenty of science behind it, that you'll live longer, you'll have better relationships, so on and so forth. So, hearing that throughout today's broadcast, hearing that from Julieanne, hearing that, from me, it is true. You attract those who you want to attract. And if you're going to lead by please and thank you, you're going to lead by example, you're going to lead by positive influence, that'll show itself in your life as well. And we all live lives, get good and bad. My mom passed away, had cancer. I can be bitter about it. It did hurt. It does sting. But at the end of the day, it's about those memories in which she is and was as a person, and was a huge example, and was the most influential person in my life by far. But we move on, we live, and we live for ourselves. We live for those around us. So again, this is not about me. It's about you being on the show and sharing us in the moment with your experiences. And that does have profound impact on me as well as those around us. So I guess I'll just give you kind of the last word on that. Anything else you'd like to share before we end this conversation today? And I know we'll have many others, and look forward to hopefully working with you in the future. I'm going to put that out there, whether it's in a training capacity, whether it is in a business, because Julie and I have a lot of great things to share with you as well. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for sharing that story about your mom. My mom also she's going through cancer treatment, and we talked a lot today about mindset, about meditation, about speaking in gratitude. We talked about burnout and how we can manage that through therapy, through retreats, through podcasts, through understanding. To forgive without an apology to some of the people who have hurt us over the years is very challenging, but it's pivotal to let go by understanding what other people have possibly gone through and having compassion for their pain and suffering as a child, perhaps, that you don't even know about, or the experiences that they've had when they bring that negative attitude. And what you speak in will happen, right? And not every single time, but 51% or more of the time, you speak it into existence. And that changes the odds into our favor. And I know this experiment that is out there that they've had this, I think it was in Japan, this water bottle experiment that, you talk badly to the water. These kids are like, you suck, you're a loser. Life sucks. Everything's bad. It's so hard. And and the water, compared to the water bottle, that they said, oh my God, you're so needed. It's so refreshing. It's so good. It's so tasty. And then they looked at a microscope. It's a bottle of freaking water, people. And they looked under microscopes and they saw the one that you speak negatively to is the one that deteriorates, the one that molds, the one that the crystals look all off and weird. The H2O crystals or molecules are all off. It looks diseased. And guess what? Your body is made out of water. Most of our body is water. So your self-talk is completely making you sick. And if that's not enough reason to change your mindset and speak nicely about other people, let alone yourself, honestly, I don't know what is. Because that experiment itself just proves to you how much your thoughts and your words mean. So stay positive and stay kind.
I love that. So I just got to add. So first of all, I think that there's a book called the Messages in Water or something. I forget what it is, but we got to figure out what it is and share it. And it shows literally they freeze the water and they show the crystals and how they look. If it's near a cell phone or a computer, they look explosive. And if somebody says "I hate you," then it's explosive. But if you say "I love you," or "thank you," they're perfect, beautiful crystals. And I mean, so much power in seeing that. And I think there was something with a monk blessing them, and you see these beautifully formed crystals. It's such a great example, in my opinion, for you to share that. So thank you. One last question about this week for sure. I'm just curious, and it'll apply later because this episode will come out after we've been to Dykema, but you're going to be speaking this week. And I'm kind of curious, what are you speaking on? And are you going to be as brave as you were before? Are you going to level it up?
So actually, I'm speaking at Kentucky in a couple of weeks. I'm not speaking at Dykema this year, but I'm speaking at Kentucky, then at the Bahamas Paradise Dental Conference, Yankee in January, Florida Dental next year, 2 days, at CDA next year, 2 days. Again, how did I land all these gigs? Meditation, baby.
Well, and okay, not to mention that you're an incredible speaker. You're an incredible speaker. It's really genuinely, if you guys can catch Dr. Rad speaking anywhere, please go hear him and see him, because you will be touched and moved and inspired by how he presents and how authentic he is and the stories he tells, genuinely. And I will be speaking this week at Dykema, but for women in DSO at one of their mentor breakfasts. And it's just these amazing, beautiful people who come into that space. And I hope I can have that level of courage to go and inspire them.
And Dr. Rad, yeah, real quick, I know we're over and people are going to be listening way through, but how can people find you? Because obviously your products or your story, or they want to book you or whatever else, how can people reach out to you via social media?
Yeah, I do all my DMs. So, Dar Radfar on Facebook, Dr. Dr. Rad Health on Instagram. Radseminar.com is all the speaking stuff that I'm doing, radseminar.com. And then my products are Rad Health Inc. So everything's Rad. You just Google my name, Dar Radfar. You'll find a way to be able to communicate with me. I'd love to help support anyone's growth. When I have a speaking gig, about 20 to 25% of my lecture slides are the stuff we talked about today. That is the new way I'm presenting sleep, the new way I'm presenting TMD, the new way I'm presenting practice management. It's all about personal development, integrated with clinical, integrated with making money, all of it. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it hopefully entertaining for you all. You two are beautiful humans and souls. In any way I could help with your growth through this journey of ours, I'd love to help, as you've helped me with this podcast. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. And for our listeners, you can find us on Instagram at Influential Dental, and a big shout out to American Dental Institute. You can also find us there. And we're in collaboration with American Dental Institute on this podcast. And so we both will promote this tremendously. We'll share that swipe copy with you. And so if anyone is looking for him, you'll be able to find him also on Influential Dental when we come out with this episode. So really appreciate you being here so much. Michael, you're the best co-host that a girl could ask for. Thank you so much for always joining me and allowing me to interrupt you.
Oh, how cute. Yeah, no, this is amazing. And we'll definitely do it again.
All right. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you. And we will be back in a couple of weeks with another episode with another inspiring guest. So thank you, Dr. Rad. You're awesome.
Thank you, guys. Stay rad.